Welcome back. The South African Cities Network says women and girls, people living with disabilities and the LGBTQI+ community are most at risk in the country's cities. It further says one of the reasons for this is the historical focus on men in planning and designing of public spaces. But it also says interventions targeting gender-based violence and sexual violence are needed. So let's discuss this even further with the network researcher Siphelele Ngobese, who speaks to us from right here in Johannesburg. Ms. Ngobese, thank you so much for your time. This is concerning. When you think about domestic abuse or even gender-based violence, you would think it doesn't get any worse, but it does. In this instance, we're talking about the unsafety of women and other communities, particularly in cities. How did you find this data? Why is this so?
Thank you so much for having me on the show. This data arises out of different streams of work that we do. We do work under the banner of inclusion and well-being. This is a research program that we have. And under that banner, we do work on urban safety. We also do work linking space, and so the quality of space to well-being outcomes throughout life. So this is a composite. So the article that we are here to respond to is a composite of all those pieces of work when you start to read them in context and what they mean. And when you start to engage with what we all understand to be the legacy of apartheid spatial design. How does it manifest in the lives of people in cities today, particularly vulnerable people in cities, such as children, people with disabilities, LGBTQI, women, and so on.
Yeah, and interestingly, I mean, just talking about the historical focus, I see that it's part of the reason, part of the reason is that the historical focus on men has been identified just within the planning and designing of public spaces.
Of course, I think this has been a challenge the world over, but it's more acutely felt in South Africa. As I've mentioned, we've got to grapple with the spatial legacy of apartheid, and we need to start to grapple with apartheid also as a facet of patriarchal violence, how it manifests in our spaces, in our public spaces, and really think about how space. It's not just about what the built environment is like, but what the built environment enables. How does it enable harmful social attitudes? How does it enable violence against women, and so on? And where do we begin? Do we toggle with planning, strategies, and implementation, or is it at the level of policy that we need to start to address the multiple exclusions and deprivations that are faced by vulnerable people in cities? And might I add, also migrants fall under the banner of the vulnerable in cities. So how do we plan our cities so that they are more inclusive, so that they enable and allow these different classes of urban citizen to really, what we call, reap the benefit of living in cities? As we understand, cities are drivers of sustainable development. Incomes on average are higher in cities than any other type of locality in the country and across the globe. So you need to have cities that have integrated spaces, integrated economies that allow everybody to play a role and allow everybody to participate and benefit. And that is how sustainable development really is supposed to play out.
And just hearing your answer now, it just gives me, the impression that it needs a layered. I mean, this issue is so complex that multiple stakeholders need to come to party to ensure that the interventions are effective. But thank you so much for talking to us, Siphelele.